Welcome back to Legal Matters with American Law Firm. I'm Mike Garrigan, and my guest this evening is John Hansen with the American Law Firm. Legal Matters is an informational and news call-in show devoted to legal topics of interest to State Line viewers. We have attorneys standing by right now to take your call at the number on your screen, 815-394-1776. We'll provide you with free information on your issue, so call now and throughout the next hour. Time now for tonight's opening statement. In our first segment with John, we'll focus on estate and advanced care planning, and then later on we'll talk about criminal record expungement and sealing. Before we get started tonight, let's remind you of the practice area that American Law Firm concentrates in. American Law Firm has a Center for Divorce and Family Law, an Auto Accident, Injury, and Social Security Disability Department, a Bankruptcy Institute, an Office for DUI, Traffic, and Criminal Defense, an Advanced Care Plan and Probate Center, a Division for Real Estate and Business Matters, and also a Department for Immigration and Naturalization Services. So please feel free to call tonight and discuss any of these practice areas with the attorney standing by live right now. First of all, John, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the American Law Firm?
Sure. The American Law Firm is a general practice firm, like you mentioned, and that means we work in many different areas of law. And I do want to reiterate that we have attorneys standing by right now to answer people's questions on the phone. They can call that number on the screen, talk about their issues. And one thing I like to mention is there's a reason why we're called the American Law Firm. It's because we believe in the American values of honest hard work and respect for individuals, no matter their background and no matter their problems. And just like our country was founded on a Bill of Rights, we actually have a Bill of Rights for clients at our law firm. That's one of the things that makes us unique.
And now a lot of people go to doctors all the time, so it's routine. Now some viewers may have never gone to a law firm before, so help ease them. Tell us a little bit about how you would approach it in a few words, how the American Law Firm approaches services.
That's a good topic. I recognize it does take a lot of courage to come see a law firm. It's oftentimes the first time someone's had to do it, and they're not sure what to expect. And so we have some things in place at the American Law Firm that help make it easier for people to make that transition. First off, we offer free consultations in our office in any area of law that we practice. And so people can come in, take some time and talk about what their goals are and what their issues are. And we listen to them. And we translate what they're wanting into a plan of action to help reach their goals and basically regain control over their life. We also offer simple flat fees for attorney's fees on cases, on many cases. And that means clients can budget up front how much a case is going to cost and therefore know what's coming in the future. Also, we offer payment plans for clients who are kind of in a financial bind at times to help them get us hired and get us working towards their goals, and that helps out too.
Yep, ease the stress for sure. And you mentioned the American Law Firm handles estate planning work for clients. Can you just kind of briefly tell us what that entails?
Sure. Estate planning entails generally preparing documents and instruments that help a person arrange for what happens to their assets when they pass away. Also helps prepare for what happens to their family if something happens to them. And lastly, can address their health care issues. So it covers a wide swath of a person's life. And some people think of estate planning documents as having a will, and that you only need a will if you're Donald Trump, you're a millionaire or something like that, or a billionaire. But really, whether you're worth $1 or $1 billion, a will and other estate planning documents cover what happens with your kids if something happens to you, who's a guardian of your children. If you're alive but you can't speak, who makes decisions for your health care. So we invite people to call this number, talk about what their questions are with estate planning, and we'll give them some advice. And we call this whole area of law advanced care planning, because basically with these instruments, we're planning in advance for someone's care down the road. And so it covers a wide area, and people can call the number and talk about what their questions are. Okay, so they want to be prepared if they're planning on doing this. So what documents should a person have as part of their estate plan or the advanced care plan? Right, there's several documents, and it kind of depends on the situation. They'll have, we'll often talk about a will that talks about whether someone's assets are going to go to a certain person or a group of people. A will also, like I mentioned before, talk about who's going to be a guardian of a child if something happens to the parent. There will be discussions we have about power of attorney for health care, which gives direction as to who is the decider for a person on health care decisions. We'll talk about trust, which you can have revocable trust, irrevocable trust, and different purposes for those. And there's also instruments called a transfer on death instrument that handles real estate transactions. So there's a very wide array of documents that we can offer. And so we sit down with people and listen to what their needs are, and then translate that into the documents they need.
Now, let's get back to that transfer on death instrument. I'm sure some viewers are familiar with the term, but may not know exactly what it means. How does it work?
Well, it's a fairly new kind of thing. I mean, a couple of years ago, Illinois passed a law that allowed us to use this, and other states have been using it for some time. What a transfer on death instrument means is it allows for someone's real estate holdings to pass to their heirs, whoever they choose, without probate court being necessary. In Illinois law, if someone dies with real estate, then normally probate court is necessary. You have to go to court, open up a public case, and a judge will preside over the passing of assets. And real estate is one of those things that that cause probate court to be necessary. A transfer on death instrument is a creation of a document that allows probate court to be avoided. It's an instruction that says, here's who I want my real estate to go to. And so it can save a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of expense, basically, in terms of emotion and finances when it comes to probate.
That can be very useful for sure. So, John, what roles do trusts play as a part of the estate planning process?
Well, trusts are, another kind of wide array, because there can be different kinds of trusts for somebody. And we'll sit down with a person and find out what their financial situation is, what their needs are, and then point them into the direction of the right trust they need to get into. But overall, a trust is also a probate court avoidance instrument. You'll have a person who has real estate, but also other assets, things like investments in the banking world, or expensive vehicles or boats or what have you. And if they have enough things, when they pass away, probate court will be necessary to be opened again. And now we have the whole public case, we have expenses and all that. A trust can house those assets and allow for a direct distribution to the person's beneficiaries without court. And there's different kinds of trusts also that can actually house an asset for a person that protects it from creditors, protects it from maybe Medicare if they're in long-term care or nursing homes. So different kinds of trusts for different kinds of purposes.
We're running short of time for this segment, but you mentioned everyone should have a will. What if a person dies without a will? What happens then to the person's property?
That's a good question. We get this a lot at the law firm. And I want to mention again, people can call this number on the screen if they have any questions about what I'm talking about or any area of law. But if somebody dies without a will, then there's a statute in Illinois that decides where their assets go. And that can be sometimes not the wishes of the person, because the law is controlling that. We call that intestate succession. So if someone doesn't have a will, they need to come in, see one of our attorneys, and we'll talk to them about the pros and cons of it and see what they need.
And again, as John mentioned, right now as the segment is being shown, we have attorneys standing by to answer legal questions from callers. And that number again, 815-394-1776. Viewers should call the number right now to speak with one of the American law firm attorneys to discuss their options. When we return to legal matters, we'll focus on criminal record expungement.
Picture experience. Legal experience in many areas of law. Dedication. Giving full attention to each client and their individual legal needs. Affordability. Offering simple flat fees and payment plans. Now picture the American law firm. Call the American law firm today at 815-394-1776 for your free consultation. Our country was founded on a Bill of Rights which set a bold standard for the protection of individual rights, a standard set for the rest of the world to follow. At the American Law Firm, you also have a Bill of Rights as a client. By offering free consultations, simple flat fees, and payment plans to our clients, we deliver effective legal solutions to your problems and goals. Call the American Law Firm at 815-394-1776 to learn more about how we represent our clients and how we can protect you.
Welcome back. It's Mike Garrigan and attorney John Hansen from the American Law Firm, continuing to talk legal matters that affect many state liners. If you want to talk to an attorney right now, live for free, just call that number on your screen. An attorney from the American Law Firm will be on the other end to answer your call live. You mentioned, John, the American Law Firm also deals with expunging or sealing a person's criminal records. What does this entail exactly?
Well, when someone's arrested, even if their arrest doesn't turn into a criminal case eventually, or if it does and they get the case dismissed, there's still a criminal record in most cases associated with their name. So if somebody does a background check on them, they'll see that there was an arrest and a criminal case. And so expunging and sealing are two ways in which people purge their record, so the public and other entities can find out what happened.
What's the difference between the two, expunging and sealing?
Well, expunging, if you have a record expunged, it means that the circuit court destroys the records. And they purge the record of the arrest or the criminal case from that person's public record, basically. Well, sealing is a less exhaustive option. Basically, sealing is where the records are not destroyed, but they're sealed away, if you will. Now, prosecutions in future criminal cases, law enforcement, they can still get access to those records if they get a court order. So it's less exhaustive than expunging, but there's two different options.
What's the purpose of doing this?
Well, these days, people, you know, if they're looking for a job, employers can do a background check and see what's in their records. If you're going into the military, if you're going to go to college, it just comes back to haunt you a lot. So we often have people come in to say, well, here's my record, here's what I have in the past, what can I do? Can I expunge it? Can I seal it? How does it work? And so we have attorneys standing by right now at that number on the screen where they can call and get those answers.
A lot of specifics sometimes, but generally is what we're talking right now. Are there any convictions or criminal records that cannot be expunged?
There are some. For example, a DUI conviction can't be expunged or sealed. But there's exceptions to a lot of rules. So we still invite people to come in and talk about what their record is and see if we can get them into one of those scenarios. And there's also waiting periods and time-sensitive issues with expunging or sealing. So it's a very complex area of law. And we have free consultations in our office where we'll talk to people about how the process works and walk them through it.
Okay, we have a short time left, but still have time for another question. What about juveniles? Can they get their records expunged?
There is the possibility of expunging or sealing juvenile criminal records. And again, it's another complex area because some juvenile records need to be done through an adult petition for expungement, and some are done in the juvie court. So it depends on the history. So I invite people to come in and talk about what their history is so I can give them the specifics on that. But it is possible, yes.
Yeah, erase those mistakes you made as a kid.
Yeah, that's the idea.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, John. And once again, lawyers from American Law Firm are standing by right now to take your calls. We'll be back with a closing statement when Legal Matters returns.